I think we all know why they're there. They're there to stand on the sidelines and look concerned. Meghan is there with her spray-on tan and wrinkled clothes, while Harry is there with his spray-on hair, looking concerned. They can stand there and look concerned and in their minds call attention to what's going on. But the fact of the matter is that they're so divisive that just the fact that they're there is not a good look. It doesn't shine a light the way that they think it does. All it does is bring negative attention. You know, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that he's condemning his half-sister to hell. Have you ever in any of your God-given days seen anything like this? She's just so fascinated, you know, with her nose up against the glass, looking at people, thinking, does this look good? Is this showing enough care and compassion?
Night and day, day unto night, night unto day, like you give a shit. Do you actually care about that crime story?
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jennifer. I am so happy to have you here, back for one of our coffee chats. Doesn't have to be coffee. You can have tea, you can have water, you can have a soda, an adult beverage, whatever you need to relax and get comfy, settle in, because we have a lot to talk about. I know I say that at the beginning of every single coffee chat, but literally there is so much. As you know, I take about a week. I read all the headlines, the articles, watch all the videos, do the research online to formulate my opinion as to what is going on with all of this craziness, because it is indeed craziness. So today we're going to talk about Harry and Meghan and their faux royal trip to Jordan. We're going to talk a little bit about the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping case. I told you I was not going to talk about that case unless something developed or if I heard or read something that struck me. So we're going to go into that a little bit. Hold on. We need to take a sip if we're talking about Harry and Meghan, okay? Take a sip. We have to start off with Harry and Meghan because the news surrounding them this past week regarding their humanitarian trip to Jordan, which was, you know, at the behest and invite and sanction of the World Health Organization. We have to talk about that because to me, and I'm sure to most of you watching, this story has been particularly vomit-inducing and stomach-turning, okay? There's no other way to put it. They have conducted faux royal humanitarian trips before. They had 2 such trips to Nigeria and Colombia in 2024. This one is a little different. This one, it seems like the stakes are a lot higher and the backlash is definitely more intense now that more and more people are on to these 2 fraudsters. They're fraudsters, in my opinion. So what I wanted to say was, as I'm watching all of these stories unfold this past week, I can't help but feel like these 2 have 2 major defaults that they always go back to when things are particularly rough for them publicity-wise and in the culture and in the media. The first default they always go back to is their humanitarian work, always trying to call attention to some type of cause that they're championing for, you know, the hot 30 seconds that they jump on whatever bandwagon. Harry and Meghan both do this, and they both do it independently of one another. Harry made a trip last fall to the Ukraine by himself. And if you'll remember, Meghan did her notorious trip, her infamous trip to Uvalde to, I guess, bring attention to the situation. Not like it didn't have enough attention in the media, but she was going to go there to basically lay flowers at the memorials of the victims with a Netflix camera crew in tow. You know, there for all of a few minutes, get her sacred shots that she wanted to get to show that she cared, you know, have her photographer, her crew there, and then she just hightails it out of there. So point being, they do these things jointly and they do them independent of one another whenever they feel the backlash, whenever they're feeling the pain and the sting of public criticism. And this trip is absolutely no different. And here's the thing. This is what, to me, is particularly troubling about this entire thing. Their visit to Jordan, and Jordan is a humanitarian hub in the region. They're helping all of these victims. Burn victims, amputees, you know, assault victims, all of it. It's crazy what's going on there. Whether you are sympathetic to Israel, whether you are sympathetic to Palestine, the problem is that when these 2 clowns show up, they muddy the waters and the focus is no longer on the cause that they're trying to highlight. the focus inevitably turns to the fact about how divisive they are, how unliked they are. The topic of conversation for days becomes the fact that she's wearing pants that look like they are 10 sizes too big, horribly wrinkled.
So much fun with this. Wait till we start talking about Meghan's pants. There was more talk about her pants than I've ever heard about a single pair of pants in the history of pants or humanity.
Meghan Markle in Jordan wearing these unbelievably ugly pants. These pants are hideously ugly. They are unbelievably unflattering.
But she is a complete wrinkled mess yet again. It gives me a migraine. That's why I had to close my eyes. It gives me a migraine right here, right behind the eyes. It gives me a migraine.
It's just the whole thing, the whole presentation. It's just off. It's off-putting, all of it. But I wanted to back up a little bit and kind of get a little bird's eye view. Stuff I was thinking about this past week when I was looking at reading all of this about their Jordan trip. Okay, it's 2026 right now, first quarter 2026. And where are we right now in the whole timeline of the Harry and Meghan saga? We all know they left the British royal family in January 2020, okay? Just think of 2021 through 2023 alone. All of the failed business ventures that they had to undergo during that time, all the backlash that was hurled at them, specifically due to the March 2021 Oprah debacle of an interview, right? All of the vitriol that they stirred up. And that really started wakening people up to the fact that these people are incredibly privileged, no matter what skin tone she claims to be. They're two incredibly privileged individuals that seemingly all they do is whine and moan about their status in life and how wronged they are. You know, it's like first world problems, right? And it started getting to the point where people over the years are just, enough is enough. We're tired of you claiming victimhood. We're tired of you trashing your families. Just go away. So there was a lot going on just in that period alone. Don't forget, between 2021 and 2023, she had a failed Spotify podcast called Archetypes. Now, supposedly, it debuted at #1 and won all these awards and all this kind of thing, but abruptly ended, and no one heard anything about it after the first season. And then in mid-2023, Spotify cuts all ties with them. All the rumblings in the press was saying that they were failing to reach productivity benchmarks. And it got to the point where one of the heads over at Spotify, Bill Simmons, went on a podcast and called, I don't know if it was his or somebody else's, but called them effing grifters, okay?
The grifters. That's the podcast we should have launched with them.
It was really bad. During that time, they also had some Netflix projects like Pearl, Heart of Invictus, and Live to Lead that didn't do well at all. Pearl, for example, never even got off the ground. So there were a lot of things that was going on behind the scenes within that Netflix deal that either didn't perform as expected, didn't garner the public interest, or never came of anything at all. So you had all of those things happening between 2020 and 2023. So in my estimation, then what happens? You reach 2024. And in 2024, that's when they took two very highly publicized trips to Nigeria and to Colombia. And what happened? Those two trips were not received well at all. And that's really when a lot of people who before that time didn't even really talk about Harry and Meghan, they weren't even really a point of discussion on certain media outlets or circles of people even talking about them. More and more people, after those two failed 2024 faux humanitarian visits, looked at them and was wondering and asking the question, why are they there? What are they doing? This seems very self-serving. This seems like self-promotion. And Meghan in particular received a lot of backlash for a lot of the, and I call them costumes, because to me that's what they were, because I feel that she's trying to dress up to fit some type of persona that she is feeling that she's trying to portray. She wore so many of these dresses that looked like cocktail dresses or things that you would wear to private parties. They didn't look like outfits that you would wear to go to community centers or to meet, dignitaries. These clothes didn't seem like they were appropriate for a humanitarian trip. There was lots of bare shoulders. There was strapless dresses. So the Nigerian trip and the Colombia trip of 2024 pretty much universally panned by anybody in the know, anyone that's been following these two for any length of time, usually from around the time she married into the family and Megxit happened in 2020. So those two trips didn't go off well. So I've spoken in the past about how I feel that Meghan is very reactionary, that she doesn't have a lot of foresight and a lot of vision to really plan or plot, plan what she wants to do and take very thoughtfully planned out measures to propel whatever she's doing forward, whether it's her brand, whether it's a trip, a humanitarian trip she's trying to do, whatever she's trying to do. I feel like when she's getting the backlash in one area, she then immediately tries to pivot to another aspect of her personality that she's trying to peddle to us, as if to say, hey, you're criticizing me for this over there, but don't forget, I can do this kind of thing too. So she was getting really, really criticized for all of the business things she was trying to do with the podcast and the Netflix and all of that between 2021, 2023. That's why she pivoted, and Harry too, because they were both desperate, pivoted and focused in 2024 on these humanitarian trips that utterly failed. So then we go to 2025. We all know what a car crash, train wreck of a disaster that year was. I've released a few videos on my channel where I highlight my commentary during the entire year of 2025, everything that went wrong, from her failed launch of As Ever, all of that stuff that was going on about the website glitch and the inventory that we all found out that she was harboring, how that show of hers, how that show just tanked and failed to resonate with anybody, and how she put out interview after interview after interview, basically telling us that, hate on me all you want, I don't care, I'm a survivor, I'm going to do what I want, which is basically what she did with the Emma Grede podcast, which is what she did on the Jamie Kern Lima podcast. She hears and she knows what people are saying, but rather than really thoughtfully kind of digest what's going on and what people really think about what she's doing, she's going to posture and she's going to tell you that she's tired of being judged and she's tired of performing for people and playing the prove it game, that she's going to do what she's going to do, and she's operating from the heart, and she's, there is a segment of her audience, she told us, that really, really loved what she's doing, and, the heads of Netflix loved what she was doing, so that's why she's just happy to, do it.
I'm gonna pray for you.
And all of the chatter and all the other criticism doesn't matter. It's going to fall on her deaf ears, and she doesn't really care. She cares because that's all she did was respond to the backlash in the second part of 2025. And when all that doesn't work, what does she do? She pivots and she tries to pretend that she's a model this past October in Paris for Paris Fashion Week. It's all so crazy. It's all so muddled. So point being, everything that happened in 2025 was not what Meghan wanted to happen. Meghan wanted to introduce us to As Ever. She wanted to introduce us to this With Love Meghan show on Netflix. And she wanted to introduce this kind of cozy, quiet luxury brand to us, but at the same time show us how down to earth she is and how simple her lifestyle tips can be. And she was hoping that that would make us like her, that would make us really want to get interested in what she's doing. But it backfired because not only was a lot of it not relatable, just in the way that she presented, what she would wear, all white, or, these like super expensive cashmere sweaters and outfits while she's cooking away in the kitchen, not relatable. Or she's showing us tips on her show, like, how to make DIY killer bath salts, her dried flowers, to make it extra special in that little tea bag. Don't do this, you guys. And I want to tell you why you should not do this.
And she goes on,
And
Angela,
it has to do
to as you say.
I read her this morning.
Yeah,
I read her
you
this
explain.
morning.
You explain.
or how to rebag pretzels, which makes people roll their eyes and think, how did this woman even get a Netflix deal in the first place? Well, we all know why, because of a title.
I'm gonna pray for you.
But we were all left scratching our heads. We're like, you're not relatable on any level. This is all just so perplexing to everybody. So she knows that 2025 was a colossal dump heap. It's just, I need a sip. It's just, that's why we are where we are right now in 2026, watching this play out. Nothing is working for these two. Nothing. Particularly for Meghan. Nothing's working. So that's why now she has to default back to this humanitarian version of herself. And she's dragging Harry along with her. And Like I said, this one is particularly jarring because something feels really wrong about it. Something feels really off about this trip in particular. And it's not her gross, baggy clown pants. That's just the tip of the iceberg as to why this trip is an epic fail. So I don't think it takes a genius to try to figure out what's going on here. They are using the scandals that the British royal family are embroiled in right now regarding the whole Randy Andy thing, okay? And also the public upset and backlash focused at the king. People are upset. They want to know, what did he know and when did he know it? Heck, a lot of people are even upset about Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. They're upset about her. They're wondering, why did she allow Andrew to run roughshod for so many years? Where were the holes here? Where were the failings? The public want answers. So I feel like Harry and Meghan are taking this entire debacle, and what they're doing is they're using it as if to say, look at everything that's going on with that family, but look at what we're doing. Look at all the good that we're doing. We are such a foil to them. We are not the problem that Andrew and Sarah Ferguson and even Charles are. We're not like those people. We are out in the open, and we are showing up and doing good. Isn't that what they said that their foundation's motto was? Show up and do good. That's all this is. But they're technically private citizens. They aren't working royals. Does anyone think for one hot second that they would have received that invitation from the World Health Organization had they not still held the title of Duke and Duchess of Sussex? Absolutely not. So they hold the title, but they're not supposed to use the titles. They're private citizens. But we all know what they're doing. They're private citizens still operating under those titles, using those titles for all they are worth. British Foreign Office has even declined to comment on this trip at all. And that's just standard diplomatic code for, we didn't sanction this, we aren't behind this, we want nothing to do with it. They are private citizens. But then the waters get even more muddied when you have the British ambassador to Jordan, Philip Hall, thanking them for the trip, thanking them for their work. Now that's drawing criticism from people saying, why is he thanking them? Because what are they doing there? In what capacity are they there? Because think about it. If they were private citizens, they are private citizens, but if they conducted themselves like private citizens, they could still go to Jordan if they wanted to. Why not just say, we want to help, but we don't want to help in front of the cameras? Or what's stopping them from just quietly donating money from their own pocketbooks to these causes? But that's not good enough for them, because in their minds, they're not going to get the recognition that they are looking for. And you know what? The World Health Organization must be getting pretty damn desperate if this is who they're inviting to bring attention to this humanitarian crisis in Jordan. It boggles the mind. You know, the United States government in early January 26 stopped all aid to the World Health Organization. Okay? They want nothing to do with it. And there have been a lot of governance issues within the World Health Organization, a lot of foreign policy admin decisions that they were making, the World Health Organization, that the U.S. didn't agree with. The U.S. put them on notice for a year, saying, okay, you've got a year's notice that we are withdrawing these funds. Harry and Meghan, in my opinion, are anti-American. They're anti the U.S. Constitution. And in my opinion, they're far leftists, and that's why they're there. They're there to basically say that, you know, the US government doesn't care, but we do. But Harry's still a guest in the United States. He is carrying on like a buffoon. He is carrying on like someone who doesn't really know what the heck is going on. He gave an interview on camera where he was saying to the Israeli government, he was sending a message saying you have to open up the channels, you have to allow aid to flow through, which then prompted some representatives from Israel to say it back to Harry, channels are open. You know, you can come visit Israel for yourself and see all that we're doing to combat this humanitarian crisis. So do you see what's happening here? Harry and Meghan, on this faux humanitarian tour of theirs, are causing division, are bringing publicity, but they're bringing a lot of negative publicity. They're starting a lot of unnecessary infighting between different countries' governments. I mean, mind you, the fights are being played out, via press offices, but still, it's not a good look. I don't understand why Charles is allowing this to continue. And Charles, I have said in previous videos, in my opinion, is completely reactionary himself. I mean, what did we just hear about just yesterday? That Beatrice and Eugenie, the princesses, the beloved princesses, are no longer going to be able to attend Ascot. They're not going to be invited in the royal box. They are, not going to be participating in a lot of front-facing activities with the family. And I'm thinking to myself, really? And this is what I mean when I say he's reactionary, because back on November 6th, I believe, when he officially stripped Andrew of the prince title, his office also made it known that they are in no way going to be sectioned off from the family or looked upon as black sheep now that their father is essentially the black sheep. It's just a muddled mess. And the fact that this is going on without decisive action from the palace tells you everything that you need to know. Tells you that Charles's leadership is weak. It's weak, and it's only a matter of time, and I said it in my other video, it's only a matter of time before William takes the helm. I don't think Charles wants to abdicate right away because he thinks that looks weak. He thinks that will tarnish his legacy. He's going to wait for a while. He's going to wait for a while and hopefully try to clean up some of these messes. But I think he's just waiting to see what's going on with the police investigation into Andrew. Once that receives some type of definitive conclusion, I think he deems it will be safe for him to then hand over the reins to William. So I don't know why they're there. I have no idea why they're there. They don't have any real working diplomatic relations with any type of government in of themselves, like a working royal would. They're not giving their own money in aid to any of these causes. They're not representative of any government. I think we all know why they're there. They're there to stand on the sidelines and look concerned. Meghan is there with her spray-on tan and wrinkled clothes, while Harry is there with his spray-on hair looking concerned. They can stand there and look concerned and in their minds call attention to what's going on. But the fact of the matter is that they're so divisive that just the fact that they're there is not a good look. It doesn't shine a light the way that they think it does. All it does is bring negative attention. And if the World Health Organization is looking for help with their tarnished image, this is not the way to go. This is absolutely not the way to go. And Harry and Meghan can say all they want, that they are not pro-Palestine and they're not anti-Israel, but that's how it's looking for a lot of people. And I've got to say, just going by the pictures that we're seeing, it is infuriating. It is infuriating, particularly to see Meghan on the sidelines in these hospitals next to these children's beds, kids who have suffered burns and all types of horrific injuries in this political crazy situation that's going on there. And she's standing off to the side and she's got this fake, feigned, practiced, in my opinion, face. And it's completely different from the way that she conducted herself in Nigeria and Colombia. Now, mind you, she was doing other types of activities, her and Harry, when they were there. But actually, there's been a lot of craziness that has been going on in Nigeria for the past few years regarding the persecution of Christians. Harry and Meghan didn't say boo about that when they were in Nigeria, right? But yet they're here now, and it seems like they are pro-Palestine. It seems like they are dealing with a lot of people who have pro-Hamas sympathies. A lot of people that were working at that art center that they were photographed in, these employees, were online, on Facebook, on social media, posting pro-Hamas content. That by association is very, very sticky. You don't want to get mixed up with that stuff. And you don't want to be on a faux humanitarian trip using your title, getting embroiled in that kind of stuff. I can't even tell you how upsetting it is for so many people to look and see her at the bedside of some of these victims. And people are saying, what about your dad, Meghan? You guys are meeting amputee victims. What about your dad? And now you've got Thomas Markle Jr. making videos on his YouTube channel. And, I don't agree with everything Thomas Markle Jr. does. He is well within his rights to say whatever he wants on his channel and do whatever he wants with his channel. But I gotta say, I can see the anger, and I can see where this anger and this frustration is coming from. Just watch this. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Now, mind-boggling how you can just continue to walk through life and not even give the man a phone call and pay for the best medical care that dad needs right now. He's going through therapy, he's going through physical rehab, and we're gonna have to get him fitted for a prosthetic here pretty soon.
Yeah, so that's what he's talking about. He's talking about Thomas Markle Sr., their dad, is being fitted for a prosthetic leg, and he has to undergo a lot of therapy for that. Apparently, it's a very painful process, and it's a lot of hard work, and it's an everyday struggle if you have a prosthetic limb. It's an everyday struggle that never goes away. Thomas Jr. has mentioned this before. We need money for my dad's health care. We need money for this. We need money for that. I don't know what's going on there, because I thought that Thomas Markle Sr., he worked for years and years and years in Hollywood as an Emmy award-winning lighting director. Doesn't he have some type of pension that comes from the unions in all that time that he was working in Hollywood? I would hope so. I really would hope so. I don't know their financials, but every time Thomas Jr. talks about that, I do wonder, doesn't Thomas Sr. have a pension? I'm sure it's all very expensive, and I'm sure that there are fees that they are incurring that they might not foresee. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I personally feel like it would be better for Tom Jr. and Sr. to just move back to the States. A lot of people say that they're there in the Philippines because the cost of living is so low. So if that's the case, and you do have a pension, and then in addition to pension, doesn't he have any type of Social Security benefits and even Social Security disabled benefits? Those can follow you even if you move to a different country. If you move to a different country, I know specifically that your Medicare benefits do not follow you, but his Social Security benefits should follow him, as his pension should. So I don't really know the whole gist of that.
And get that man walking again. So that's the goal, that's the priority, and I'm good doing that. And I hope next time, Meghan, that you see a disabled person or somebody who has, only one leg, I hope you think real hard. And I hope karma beats the living Christ out of your mentality.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. So many people think this. So many people are thinking this. And that's particularly why I feel that this trip is so off in everyone's opinion. People are much more enraged about this particular trip because of things like this. Not only because they're in Jordan making these, what they think aren't political statements, but are reading very strongly as political statements, especially when Harry, is preaching to Israel about, open up channels for aid and all that. But then stuff like this, the optics of this type of stuff is absolutely terrible. But hold on, he's almost done. Listen to this.
Because God knows, Meghan. God knows. He's got a special place for you. When you're not even going to get up there. You're going straight to hell.
Now that is just, it's just sad. It's just sad. I don't necessarily, I don't agree with that statement. Nobody knows who's going to hell. The only thing that determines who's going to hell is the will of God. So I don't necessarily agree with the fact that he's condemning his half sister to hell, but I can sympathize with Tom Jr. and see and feel why he's saying the things that he's saying, because he's hurt. He's angry, as is the entire family. This all looks terrible. All these optics look absolutely terrible. So you've got her cosplaying. A lot of people are saying that she's trying to move into this new era now, where she used to do this back before she met Harry, when she was trying to lure him in. She's playing the whole Angelina Jolie role right now. And it is a very sharp contrast to the types of things she wore in 2024 on the Colombia and Nigeria trip. Yes, again, I know she wasn't visiting, burn amputees and things like that, but it is still a very, very distinct difference. And so many people are saying that what she's trying to communicate with a lot of these feigned, pained looks, like her whole face during this trip looked like she sat on a tack to me, but it's performative. And people are saying these performative gestures and these pained looks and the rumpled clothes and all that, she's trying to convey that, the situation is so dire that she doesn't really care how she's dressed or how she looks. She is so secure in of herself that is not what matters right now. What matters is that they are there visiting these victims, trying to bring attention to the cause. But the problem is again, she's so disliked and she's so divisive that people see her and they immediately default to everything that they don't like about her. And people have a catalog of reasons as to why they don't like her, because she has come across as manipulative over the years. There have been reports of bullying. She has thrown her family under the bus. She's done everything she can to get Harry away and turned away from and against his own family. What's the common denominator in the rifts and the divide and the anger with the two families? The common denominator is Meghan. So there's a lot of reasons why people don't like or care for this woman. When they see her now, that is all they focus on. Everything they don't like about her and everything they don't like about Harry. Now, moving gears a little bit, going into some of the pictures and video that came out from this trip, there were a few moments in particular that I watched and I thought, oh boy, oh boy. People just don't react to her the way that she wants. She's desperately trying to get the camera FaceTime that she wants in order to polish and clean up the image, but it's not working. There was one little girl that she met in particular who was holding a violin. And it really seemed to me that that little girl was just not happy to be there. The side eye that little girl was giving, unbelievable, just unbelievable. And like I said, these faces that she's making of this, she's just so uncomfortable and she's so just like pained at everything that's going on around her. And the video in particular, which a lot of people found distasteful, that I don't know if it was a doctor or just someone at the hospital staff, but that person that pulled the sheet off of that young 14-year-old burn victim while Harry and Meghan looked on, that moment was really, really one that pissed off a lot of people and started this whole Thomas Markle Sr. connection. Like, you're visiting this girl that you don't know, that is a victim, that's gone through so much, and you look like you're concerned. Why can't you transfer some of that same love and concern to your own family member? To me, it just looks so performative. The way that she sighs, the way that she steps back on her heels, the way that she nods, it looks like someone who is in their head, and what they're thinking is, how is this looking? How is this coming across? Does this look okay? Do I look like I'm showing enough, grief and anguish over what I'm experiencing? It is weird. It is like looking at a robot that looks human, but is still trying to figure out human emotion and how to convey human emotion so as to not set you off. It's just very, very strange. It's just very, very weird, all of it. She just looks super, super uncomfortable, like she doesn't want to be there, but she's compelled to be there because she cannot go a week without shoving herself in front of a camera and show us in some way, shape, or form some aspect of her personality that she hopes that we'll glob onto this time and say, oh yeah, okay, we like you. Whether it's the cooking on the Netflix show or whether she's, doing a podcast or now she's showing up And that one photo in particular of her with her hands on the side of this hospital bed looking over at a child. Have you ever in any of your God-given days seen anything like this in a humanitarian visit? To me, it looks like she's at a zoo. You know, like there's glass in between her. She's just so fascinated, you know, with her nose up against the glass, looking at people, thinking, does this look good? Is this showing enough care and compassion? I mean, it's just so weird and so creepy. I don't understand any of this. I don't understand any of this. She's on the Epstein list, and so is her husband. And this, they think, is the cure for this. Would you ever in your life see William and Catherine behaving like this? William and Catherine are currently in Wales. They're surrounded by children. They're interacting with crowds, and they're actually having fun with the crowds. And you're seeing an exchange, you know, between someone in the crowd and Prince William, between someone in the crowd, kids, you know, and Catherine. Princess Catherine was playing rock, paper, scissors with some kids in the crowd. And then you see Meghan milling around in these art centers and visiting with these people, and everything's very standoffish. Like, you know, they have their hands in their laps looking at her, and she's kind of walking and like surveying a receiving line or something. It's just so weird. There's no genuine interaction. Help this make sense to me. None of this makes sense. That's why we're all creeped out. You know, creepy man clown pants aside and all of that, that's bad enough. But to see the interactions, these stilted, fake, performative reactions, no one is buying any of this. I really don't understand why they can't bring attention to this cause without doing this type of stuff. You do not have to be performative like this in order to champion a cause that you believe in. No matter what side you're taking, fine. You want to believe what you want to believe, great, believe in it. But just go out and give privately, give quietly. They do this type of stuff because they still consider themselves royal, but they aren't royal. The royal family goes out and conducts visits and tours like this because they are inherently, just by design, forward facing like this. And the whole institution is designed for them to be forward facing and to say, yes, we're here and we are, you know, bringing attention. But they, as private citizens, don't have to do this. They have nothing to gain other than to enrich themselves and call more attention to themselves. And what's particularly gross to me and disgusting is to see her as ever Instagram profile. And I've got a few posts pulled up here. All this is going on. They're visiting Jordan. And at the same time, what do we get? And she's talking about peddling her bookmark and peddling her jams and her teas, saying things like designed for quiet hours, golden afternoons, and evenings that settle slowly. And she's posting pictures of her bookmark and a teacup and saucer, saying, you know, fan favorite herbal teas, read, sip, and savor the moment. How does this messaging and everything that she has going on with this as ever, how does that tie into what she's doing right now with her husband in Jordan? It has absolutely nothing to do with the other. And that's why all this is so confusing. And that's why she needs to pick a lane. She won't pick one. She's going to try to drive in every single lane she can, crazy without a seatbelt, doing 120, because up till now, that's what she's been allowed to do. But what needs to happen is the titles need to be stripped. If Charles doesn't have an inkling by now why these titles need to be stripped, then he is too far gone and there is no saving the man, because they are going to do untold amounts of damage between when he finally does abdicate. I predict it's going to be by the end of the year, but Harry and Meghan can do a lot of damage before then. But point being, she's in too many lanes. She's trying to enrich herself with this as ever business. She was trying to enrich herself with these podcasts and these Netflix deals. And, you know, he was trying to enrich himself with that book of his and all these things they're trying to do. It doesn't jive or mesh with this humanitarian image because they are so divisive, and that's all people see when they're in places like Jordan. Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you find all of this as incredibly frustrating as I do? All of these people need prayer. Everyone, all of the victims on both sides, these two, Meghan and Harry, they need some serious, serious prayer. I don't know what they're doing. They are so unbelievably lost, but I'm telling you right now, they are focused on so many of the wrong things. And it all comes back to self-enrichment and inflated senses of self-importance. And what about that one moment? I called it the Diana moment of the trip, when she did everything she could to make sure that she knelt down and sat in front of that mother and that child when they were having that little group circle discussion. It starts out with her on the side, and then it ends with her up close and personal, holding their hands, kind of getting in the way that Diana used to. But no one saw Diana do that and felt that it was performative versus Meghan. And I found it very telling in the pictures and in the video from that. You'll notice when you look at Harry, as soon as Meghan gets down in front of that mom and that kid, you see Harry kind of look off to the side as if he's just completely disgusted with it. That's how I read it. I just saw Harry just kind of like, here we go. It's not good. It's not looking good. It's not looking good for these two. But okay, think of it this way. I think the only silver lining to all of this going on is that even though Harry and Meghan think that by doing these types of things, that it makes them look better in lieu of the whole Andrew scandal, right? But it doesn't. And all it does is make William and Catherine shine that much more brightly. Don't you think?
I bawb yng Nghymru, dydd gwyl dawi hapus iawn.
Mae Cymru yn agos iawn at ein colonnau, ac rydyn yn edrych ymlaen at bob ymweliad.
Mae'n wlad hyfryd gyda hanes cyfoethog a phobl wych.
Dymunod ffylnod, llawn o ddathlu, gyda theulu a ffrindiau.
Everyone is so upset with everything that's going on, but they are still lumping Harry and Meghan in the category of an Andrew and a Fergie. Personally, I really feel that they are just as bad in the sense that all they want to do is enrich themselves and monetize the titles. They are still a liability, and they are still people that William and Catherine do not trust. And William and Catherine are the future of the monarchy. And there's so many people now that are upset at Charles. They want to know, what did he know? When did he know it? I have videos on that. I can link those in the description for you as well, where I talk specifically about that. But cries are getting louder and louder for William and Catherine to ascend, and to ascend quicker than anticipated. And when that happens, this clown show with these two is going to be over. Who knows if they are going to care that much about all of these causes if they can't have a camera in their face. Because they're not going to be invited anywhere unless they are the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, because no one cares. If they don't have the titles, they're just private citizens that nobody cares about. So let's see how much care and love and compassion they're going to throw out to causes like these when those titles are stripped. That's going to be very interesting to see. Okay, moving on. Okay, I had to go take a little break, get a little refill. I've now moved on from coffee to my German collagen tea that I buy in the drugstores here called Rossmann. I really like their teas that they have in the German drugstore here, and the prices, you guys, the groceries in Germany, I'm telling you, I'm going to be really sad when we have to go back to the States and I have to pay double for all the groceries that we can get here that are fresh and great for literally half the price that I was paying in the States. It's sad. It's really sad. I mean, mind you, I've heard from people that live here in Germany, they say that roughly half of their income is taxed. That to me is scary, but I guess there are trade-offs everywhere, right? But anyway, what do you guys think of my Haunted Mansion mug? Don't you love it? This is one of my favorite mugs. I love it. I love it. Okay, so moving on to the Nancy Guthrie case. Now, I told you that I would not talk about this case until I felt like there was something to say about it. I have some notes here that I made in my notes app on my phone. Forgive me if I'm looking down at them, but okay, so we're now moving into the second month of this. There are no real substantial leads at all. And the thing that is particularly tragic about this whole thing was that Nancy Guthrie had a pacemaker and she had a heart condition, and she was taken without her medication. Her medication, heart medication, was left behind. And that is what is causing many to think that unfortunately Nancy is no longer with us, that she would not have been able to survive without her medication. So there's that. But there's no suspects named, no arrests have been made. The Guthrie family, since I talked to you guys about this last on my channel, the Guthrie family has offered a $1 million reward for information leading to her recovery. There are also some things that have happened is the primary command post that the Pima County Sheriff's Department, they've moved it from Tucson to Phoenix. So there's been that, and they have said that, they're doing it to basically refocus all the resources. They're apparently going through over 10,000 hours of video footage, ring cam footage. They were talking about a vehicle that was seen about 2.5 miles from the home, around 2:30 in the morning, the night of the abduction. There's been forensic delays in the DNA analyzing of some of the blood spatters that have been going on. So a lot of people are saying, is this case cold? Everyone's upset. Everyone's fatigued over all of this. Savannah released an emotional video just this past week. She's made an acknowledgement that her mother may already be gone. So the tone is definitely shifted from one of just these pained, impassioned pleas for their mother's safe return to now her basically phrasing as if, she may already be gone, but, we don't care. We as a family still want her recovered in whatever form that may be. So it's really sad. It's really sad. And there's been a lot of public scrutiny over the sheriff of Pima County. What is his name again? Chris Nanos. There's been a lot of criticism of this guy. And I said that in some of my Nancy Guthrie videos that I released a few weeks ago. And they're just as relevant now if you went back and watched some of them. I'll link them somewhere here or in the description, in that there's no real progress being made in this case because there's no leads, there's no suspect, there's no nothing. But even in those videos, I was saying, I don't understand why the house was released back to the family just a day after the abduction. And then, you had reporters wandering around taking pictures of blood on the front porch. And then, about a week or so later, then he made the executive decision to corner off the entire perimeter of the property, to have the yellow police tape. And people are like, why wasn't that done from the onset? I mean, there's so many things. And then I heard something about, I guess, the sheriff, Chris Nanos himself, suffered a really devastating loss. He had a brother die in hospice care, I think a day after Nancy was abducted. So a lot of people are saying, was he mentally and emotionally compromised during that, time? Because the first 48 hours, as we all know, after a crime or an abduction, kidnapping scenario, the first 48 hours are the most crucial. And he himself was going through something emotionally devastating for himself and his own family during that time. So there's just been so many criticisms, and people are saying that he's very egocentric, that he has a grudge against the FBI, and, he doesn't want to play nice, doesn't want to play ball with them. The FBI is kind of notorious for not wanting to play nice with a lot of other federal and local agencies. So I guess there could be two ways of looking at that. But you've got two, perceived warring factions here. There's all this stuff. And then it's still nothing. We still have absolutely nothing. And I came across this video on my YouTube feed, and I wanted to show it to you. I don't know if you know who Michael Savage is. I've listened to Michael Savage on and off over the years. He is a conservative commentator. There are some people that would call him a far right-wing commentator. He's actually got a kind of interesting history. He has lived in the San Francisco area since the 60s, and he used to be a self-proclaimed liberal beatnik. And he tells the story about how he transitioned from what he called the new left to the right. And he just summarizes it by saying, I was once a child and now I'm a man. And he would hang around with these leftist beatnik types in the 60s and 70s, these poets. He even worked for the psychedelic researcher Timothy Leary back in the day. And he's really into like herbal medicines and like holistic cures and all that. So, I guess you could say being a hard liberal is very much in his DNA. But then he tells the story about during the Reagan era, as a social worker, working as a social worker, he finally started cluing into all these things that were wrong with the system and that were wrong with this political correctness that was going on in society and culture at the time. And he talks about in the Reagan era, working as a social worker, he would see these welfare clients getting money to buy better furniture than he himself could afford as a social worker. And that just started, turning the wheels in his mind, like something is amiss here, something is wrong. And then after that, in the early 90s, I think it was like 93, 94 and on, he just rebranded himself and he changed his last name because he was born Michael Weiner, but he rebranded himself and his last name to Savage. So I want you guys to watch this clip from Michael Savage's YouTube channel. And I haven't listened to Michael Savage since, I don't know, probably like 2018 or 2019 or something. And he used to be super popular on radio. And I think Ben Shapiro took his radio slot. So Michael Savage just quit all that. And now he just does his YouTube channel. I don't know if he's still on Sirius or any of those radio platforms anymore, but I'm going to play you a bit and then I'll talk to you in between. But here we go. Listen to this.
The other day, they come up with another story to screw us over with their big lies. Meanwhile, we have this thing going on with the old lady in Arizona. I'm sorry. If this was a sitcom, it would have been pulled off the air already. How many episodes of this Guthrie saga have we seen that we don't want to see anymore? You'd click.
That's exactly how I was feeling when I made that video a couple weeks ago. I was saying, yes, it's tragic. And I am praying for Nancy. I'm praying for Savannah. I'm praying for the entire family. This is tragic. This is horrible. But it was so in your face ad nauseum. The news cycle about this particular story got really hyped up and amped up and crazed around the time that everyone really started talking about the Epstein stuff. And that's why so many of us were like, why are we being vomited all over with this Nancy Guthrie story when there are other things that are really important? Not to say that the kidnapping and abduction of an elderly woman isn't serious and isn't tragic, but people were just finding it very weird and disjointed. So, okay, yeah, cool.
Past the saga, and yet they can't stop talking about it. Night and day, day unto night, night unto day, like you give a shit. Do you actually care about that crime story? How many children have gone missing in the last few years that you never heard anything about? How many children were on Epstein Island that you never heard much about and don't care much about? But one old lady goes missing from one liberal stooge on, I don't even know what channel she's on. I never saw Guthrie. I don't know who the hell she is.
He's talking about Savannah Guthrie, who is a co-host on the Today Show. But honestly, I didn't really know who she was either before this. If I saw her face, I would know that she was on some type of morning show, but I couldn't tell you her name. I know her name now after all this, but
I think she's on a Good Morning America. I don't know what show she's on. So you look at the show, they don't stop. I don't even turn the news on anymore. I can't take it. Between that and ads for autoimmune diseases, I'm out. I automatically go to Turner Classic Movies to watch 50s movies.
And that is why I talk about things on my channel. I read the Joan Crawford book, My Way of Life, and I read the book about Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn Slept Here. And it's such a nice respite from all of this. And if you haven't watched those playlists, I'll link them below. Go give them a chance because I've got so many of you guys now interested in the Child Bride Priscilla Presley book. I've just read chapter 1 and I'm editing chapter 2 right now, coming later this week. But point being, I watched old Errol Flynn movies and old Joan movies while I was doing that series, just for me, for my own entertainment. And it was so it was such a nice, calming way to spend time to look at something that was simpler and just more gentle versus all of this craziness that we all deal with now. So I totally get what he's saying here.
Then watch one more friggin' second of this Guthrie shit. I don't care about her. I know I'm supposed to say, I hope they find her. Well, they're not going to find her. She's dead. She's gone. And that friggin' sheriff, are you joking? Are you kidding? You tell him he's not involved some way in this? How many movies do you have to watch until you put 2 and 2 together and come up with 4? Why have they not polygraphed everyone in the family? That's what you usually do, day one. Everyone in the family takes a polygraph. Day one. Day one! This ludicrously poor story, this incredibly boring sitcom going on with no resolution, and now we're told it may take years for a resolution. You're going to watch it? My God.
You get it. You get it. A little more forceful than I would be, but I think that there is some truth to Michael Savage's sentiments here. There is some truth. Not that I'm still not praying for the safe return, but I think so many of us feel we're being taken for stooges here, that we all have the attention spans of gnats, but we have to be force-fed the correct story or the story that they want us to focus on. Not all the, child abductions and abuse and scandals and all the stuff that's going on. Don't look over there. Look over here. And I don't know, I just think a lot of us are really done with this drama that's designed to distract, but it's not really doing anything to help any situation. So yeah, let me know what you think about that in the comments below. What do you think about what Michael Savage said about all that? What do you think about what I'm saying about all that? Do you still follow the Nancy Guthrie case? If so, why? Or if you're not following it, why aren't you following it anymore? Are you feeling fatigue over the whole situation? Let me know down below.
Night and day, day unto night, night unto day. The other day they come up with another story to screw us over with their big lies. I don't care about her.